Good evening and welcome to the Minions of the Zoo. I'm your host and keeper, the Harry Channel. And with me tonight are Minions SkepTock.
Hi, everybody.
And DrFunctional.
Okay, sorry. Harry, hi. Harry had me reading up on what the John Birch Society was. So preoccupied.
I didn't expect you to go through the checklist, right? You know, and out of
it
context,
sounded interesting, and you know what? You were right. The first two paragraphs, I'm like, yeah, and
out of context, it sounds like I'm grooming you for the John Birch Society. So let's
I just like to be.
Let's just
informed.
back up ever so slightly. I was simply pointing out before the show to Functional that a thing that my grandfather used to tell me is that the difference, when you talk about these extreme organizations, you'd think that you disagree with every single thing that they say. Mm-hmm. And usually you don't. You agree with like 80% of it. And then you get to the wacko 20% of their platform, and that's where the real disagreement kicks in.
Yeah, and it tends to be the most egregious things that they believe.
Yeah, I think most people agree in principle about most things. It's just we say, oh, we want this kind of society to live in. And then, you're going, and that means capitalism. The other person says, and that means communism. And you go, wait, how did you come to that conclusion when we agree about so many things? And then they're like, well, comrade, face wall. No, that's the way it works. So we should be joined by Sora Luna in a bit. She actually sent me a message and she's still on the way home. So it'll just be 3 or 4 of us tonight, which is good. That actually makes for a really tight show. I kind of like it when it's just, as much as I like it when it's 6 people or 7 people, I kind of like it when it's 4 too. So
yeah, and the adults are in the room, so
Yeah. So Functional, since we're chatting, how was your day? Anything you want to share before we start things?
Last week, and this is why I wasn't on the show last week, not because of anything else, I joined a new gaming group, Tabletop, Warhamsters and all that. And last week I overdid it. 2 full days standing around, throwing dice. I came home, I passed right out. And today we just went, Elwin and I went just for this afternoon. It was a lot more maintainable, had a blast, but I'm still tired. Standing around for hours on end just does not agree with me these days. But it was a great day in Toronto with beautiful weather, a little bit of chilly wind, but with nice bright sun. It's exactly what you want up here in the cold white north.
Yeah. Air temperature doesn't matter quite so much if the sun's beaming down on you.
Well, it's a nice combination of the two, because if you're in the shade, like dark shade, full shade, it's kind of cold. But if you go in the sun, it's nice. You get the warm sun, and then just a little cool breeze, so you're not like hot.
Yeah, and that near infrared is actually allegedly, hypothetically, really good for a lot of all the good stuff that happens on the intracellular level in your body. Now, over on MedCram, which is a really good channel, the guy who sort of is the lead guy for that channel, he seems to be a big proponent of the idea that all of the near infrared we're not getting is bad. That taking vitamin D is one thing, but putting all this E-rated glass on buildings and then sticking people inside them with recirculated air, not healthy. Not so good. Not so good for
what does he say we're missing?
Well, they talk about melatonin as a for instance, as one of the things that near infrared starts to produce in your body. And he seems to feel that there's a difference between naturally generated melatonin from the skin and just ingesting it and trying to absorb it through your gut. Same with vitamin D. Sorry, I'm confusing vitamin D and melatonin. My mistake. I'm talking about vitamin D. But melatonin's also related to all this stuff. So the whole melatonin cortisol cycle is... Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I mean, our bodies, millions of years, hundreds of thousands of years of evolution have developed our bodies so that we still need to go out and have that day-night cycle. And when it gets to the night cycle, that's when your body starts going into that preparation for sleep and starts producing more melatonin, so that makes you have a complete sleep, so that your body
once
can
the light
regenerate.
goes away, yeah. And
Light
if you
goes
want
away,
to be alert, you wake up in the morning and you go out and let the blue light come in your eye holes, and then you're much more productive. Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I believe it. Yeah. Skep,
Yes.
how was your day?
Uh,
I just don't want to talk about
fine. Kind of started off a little bit headachy this morning, but once I got going, got out there and picked some tomatoes and got some water on the garden. I got some talking done with family that needed to be done and some arrangements made. Just it's just kind of a practical day. Didn't do anything too amazing, although we did grill some amazing hamburgers and hot dogs. The hamburgers were constructed by my wife, a mix of salt pork, as Gimli would say, and beef and all kinds of delicious spices, and grilled to perfection. It just was amazing. It's fun to just blow it on the diet every once in a while.
Sure.
And that with ice cream for dessert. If you hear me snore, it's legit.
He's got the itis.
Yeah, the parasympathetic reflex. Good night.
Yeah. Well, I would like to take a moment to, let's see, who do we have with us? We've got Assassin of the Gray, Costin, Green Badger Outdoors, Heaver Dam,
Costin.
Let's see. Oh, so far so good. Oh, Addy. Hello, Sir Adamantine. Say hi to Elwyn for me, Functional.
Hi, Elwyn.
There we go. Perfect.
I mean...
All right. So, let's see. What was interesting about my day? Not much. I realized that I have a huge, massively important demo to do on Thursday. So my life just got very, very boring. Outside of putting this show together, I know what I'm going to be doing for the next several days, and it's not interesting for anybody, including me. Yeah. It's going to be a lot of work. So
okay. You're basically Iron Man, so you're allowed to.
Yeah, let's jump right into things, shall we?
Where Skep is just kind of like the juggernaut. Nothing's going to stop him.
Yeah.
I need to get some bionic legs so I can be more like Skep.
Well, what was it? Iron Man had that army guy or Air Force guy. I think it was played by Don Cheadle. Maybe I'm mistaken. And I was watching that. I was watching that Iron Man movie with some friends, and they got mad at me because I wouldn't use his proper comic book name. I just kept calling him Wingman.
Oh, you mean Falcon? Oh, no, Iron
Hawk?
Patriot or the
whatever.
Hawk guy?
You mean Wingman?
The Hawk guy.
Yeah, the Hawk guy is Captain America's Wingman.
He's forever going to be Wingman.
That's right.
I mean, there was a time when I couldn't remember Neil deGrasse Tyson's name, so I just kept calling him Black Astronomy Guy, which really seemed to disturb some people.
Yeah,
but eventually I got it.
He
straight.
literally calls himself Black Science Man.
Yeah,
it was a meme that he no, not at all. But it was a meme that he actually appreciated, and it was like, that's hilarious because I am in fact black. I am in fact devoted my life to science, and I am in fact a man. So you are correct, and I mean. That I don't particularly like a lot of his political stuff, but to me, that sort of attitude of rolling with the punches and taking something that someone may have meant in sort of a less than savory term, I don't want to ascribe anything, but and just rolling with the punches. My friend in high school got called Jabba. His name is still Jabba to this day, and even once he took that and made it his. It was a thing to be celebrated, and people were. It was a great nickname. It's very, very few people get those sort of natural nicknames in their life that they.
Well, let me tell you a story, a brief story, since I keep telling stories about my life on the show. I did concurrent enrollment when I was in high school, so from junior year on, I was going full time to junior college and high school. Because somebody convinced me that the high school experience was important and that I should just stick with it. I'm adding that to the list with 6th grade camp, everybody, by the way. That's another one of those don't tell me what to do because I should just trust my gut things. Anyway,
Right.
so I ended up taking over the summer American history, but they decided at the high school, oh, no, you can't use those American history credits from the high school. From the junior college, you have to take it again here. And so the guy who they had as the teacher he was an older gentleman, a communist, but a fair guy in spite of that. But he couldn't hear particularly well. So there was these group of these 3 guys who just did not like me. I didn't do anything. They just didn't like me. They thought I was just weak and that they could prey on me.
That's when you pulled out your lightsaber and cut off one of
So
their arms.
the guy, so they would just like say stuff all through the class, and I'm just sitting here going, "Could you just shut up?" And it annoyed me so much that I just went up to him and I said after class, I said, "Look, you do realize this class is graded on a curve, right?" And they said, "Yeah, what of it?" And I said, "I've already taken this class, and I'm really good at taking tests. How badly do you want to take summer school? Because this is a requirement for graduation." Guess who spent the summer in summer school? All 3 of those assholes, because they didn't think I was
Because they didn't
serious.
smart enough.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. I put a bunch. There was a lot of collateral damage with that, but I was pretty pissed.
Lucky you didn't get.
I don't know if I'm ashamed or proud of myself, to be honest.
You know what? I think you should be proud of yourself because you try to disarm the situation without having to cross that line of, befriending them because they obviously weren't worth your time. And you gave them the choice. Do they want to let you live and let live and maybe help them out in the end? Or do they want to continue being useless dickheads?
All they had to do was just stop muttering a nickname at me throughout the entire class just to piss me off.
Oh, is that
that's
personal?
Yeah.
That's
yeah,
all
I
they
think
had
it's
to do was
totally
just shut
justified.
up.
I think that's totally justified, actually.
Well, they weren't the
Yeah.
only people that had to go to summer school because of that, but whatever.
I think if you look up in the dictionary taking the
Collateral.
high road, that would be the high road.
Yeah, collateral damage.
Sort of.
is a
Yeah,
thing.
there was some collateral damage, but whatever. Everybody should have studied harder. So anyway,
Well,
it
you
was
can only
totally
go back to your
fair.
teenage years and wring your own neck out and go, study harder. It actually matters.
I said, look, I've already taken this class in college.
Yeah.
I don't want to be here. You don't want to be here, but just leave me the hell alone because I've already taken this class in college and I got an A. You're taking summer school if I decide to actually put some effort into this class. That's all I said. That's what happened. Anyway, enough about me and my weird ego. Let's see. Switching. So this is a thing that happened in Texas in one of those beautifully, deliciously gerrymandered districts in your home state, Skep.
Mm-hmm.
Plus 14,
It's
plus 16?
Yeah,
Blue?
80-something% Hispanic in this heavily gerrymandered, completely dark blue district. A woman who was basically running on a platform of God, family, and country, was a legal. Her family legally immigrated to the United States. She was born in Mexico. Her husband is a border patrol officer.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he's a border agent. Yeah, he really
And
is.
she creamed an incumbent Democrat.
Have you heard her talk? She is very engaging.
Yeah. She's
I did
exactly
after I
the
heard about the
opposite of
story,
AOC. If she runs into AOC, I think they will annihilate each other. Because she's younger,
Universal.
Anti-AOC.
better looking, opposite. And pretty much the opposite of everything on every policy. AOC is probably not happy right now because she's no longer the cute Latinx woman in whatever. I never thought she was all that cute anyway with that mouth of hers.
Yep.
Yeah. Whereas
I
Myra
never thought
is
she was all
complete
that
smash.
Latinx.
Yeah. But
She got the
Yeah, well,
thickness in
she's
all
like-
the right places.
well, AOC is Puerto Rican, I guess, by extraction, or maybe half Puerto Rican.
Yeah,
And
it's-
this woman was actually born in Mexico. Family
Right.
were skilled migrants, applied legally. She grew up here. I think they moved here when she was 6.
Yeah.
I think this is incredibly significant because your friends, the Republicans in Texas, Skep, pretty much figured, this blue is just like cancer. We need to just wall it off.
Mhm.
And she still flipped that district. It should have been unflippable because they were
Yep.
basically Democrats they'd written off and just said, here, have this so that you don't pollute the rest of the state.
The Democrats are shitting big golden bricks about this too. The Democrats in Texas, they have been putting stuff out today. A possibly mischievous alter ego of mine is a member of some of these Democratic organizations, and just so I can observe the traffic, and it was entertaining as hell.
We'll call him Tepsock. It was beautiful to watch the Young Turks meltdown over this as well. It was, oh my god, Chunky Yogurt was just even in his world of nonsensical bamboo not bamboo baboon rantings. This was just delicious to watch because it's disgusting. These are the things that these sort of leftist progressives believe in, and the second that they may not, like you were saying, agree with that small percentage, they're like, oh my gosh, she's a fascist, she's oh my god. It's like, what are you even talking about? Because this is delicious. This shows hopefully what's a taste of things to come on the larger scale for the Democrats, because they've gone so insanely batshit overboard that they need to be taught a lesson. And as far as I can see, the Republican side of things, they're all like, yeah, classical liberals, disaffected centrists, all of you guys, you don't want to be with those insane people? We'll take you. We may not agree on everything, but you know what? We're not going to cancel you. We're not going to burn down your businesses or shatter your livelihood because we don't agree with you on those small things.
Tulsi Gabbard.
That's a conversation for another time.
Yeah. She's trying to position herself that way, and that's not going to work.
Again, that's a conversation for another time, which I'm pretty sure we're going to end up having. Okay, so this is a good thing. Hi, Sora.
Hello.
Hey,
Hi,
Do you have
Sora.
anything you want to share before we get started? Your
How was
day
your
or
game?
whatever?
Stream.
I was on the corner before this, so sorry I'm late, but it was a lot of
That's
fun.
fine. It's fine.
That was
You
that
got
was
all
the
of her-
extent of my day.
What do you mean
The-
you were on the corner?
She wasn't. Yeah. Skep, be good.
Well, yeah, because being on the corner was an old ghetto expression for being shot, usually for not paying a debt, not paying a loan shark.
Well,
Yeah.
I did find out about dating and women are vending machines today, so I guess on the corner has very many
Yeah,
other
It's a-
meanings.
it's a
Alrighty.
nuanced thing.
Evidently.
So, Sora, did you get a chance to look at? Let's see. Why is this being? Did you get a chance to look at this? Gavin Newsom is joining Truth Social.
I did
Oh
not.
boy.
You're aware of Gavin Newsom? He's the fine governor of the state of California.
I have heard of him, yes.
Yeah, and he's a massive hypocrite. He's the kind of guy that will shut down the whole state except for his winery, and he'll go unmasked with a bunch of people to one of the best restaurants in California for a private dinner. That's a Gavin Newsom thing. He's very pleased with himself, and he's not really. I don't want to say he's stupid, but he certainly
He's
isn't
not.
smart.
He's evil, and he doesn't care. He believes that he is an anointed one. He really does think that he is a better kind of human being. And all these things have come his way because he deserves them. You would have to have that outlook in order to hustle your best friend's wife, your campaign manager, and sneak her into bed and rupture your relationship, rupture your campaign and everything else, and just say, hey, it was fun. And that's what he did.
Well, aside
That's
from
why
that, I think
the only thing that makes me happy about that was the person he got to divorce was lawyer Kimberly Guilfoyle.
Yeah, which is better for her that she's
Yeah.
not involved with him anymore.
But
So,
I have a feeling she did very well.
well, Gavin
in the
Newsom is
settlement.
joining Trump's Truth Social, and he's saying that he wants to have basically a public debate with people on the right about issues. To which I simply
Okay.
say, yeah, that sounds like a great idea.
Yeah, 1,000 flowers bloom.
I have no objection to that. And if he wants to get more national attention instead of just attention in California, this seems like a good way to do it, because people are talking about it. It costs him absolutely nothing to do this. I don't think it's going to cause. He's not going to lose any support from his people for doing this.
But a lot of
it's all upside.
A lot of red state folks do not know what the cut of this guy's jib is like, and that'll be good for him to try and sell himself to the red states and see how he does with Republicans.
I mean, hopefully it'll go. Well, not hopefully. Why am I rooting for him? I remember when Carl Benjamin, A.K. Sargon of Akkad, was getting ready for internet blood sports, and
Yep.
And he went in there basically thinking, I'm right, I've done my reading, I've got all the background ready, and I'm ready to debate. But then you run into people who just hit you with a wall of rhetoric.
Right.
And
it's dishonest.
yeah, what are you going to do about it? I mean, I don't know if you can have a real debate in social media now.
It has
even
to
if
be
you really
highly
wanted to.
Highly structured and regulated.
Yeah. It's not going to be an Oxford style debate.
Yeah, hell no.
Yeah, which I kind of like. But I think it's fine. But go ahead, Functional.
Well, it's just interesting that, going to be on there calling out Republican laws. This could get interesting. My first post breaking down America's red state murder problem. So just looking at the first, which is Louisiana, it has a very high murder rate per capita, the highest in the nation. However, they're disproportionately concentrated in urban areas, especially Nolens, which has a murder rate of about 37 per 100,000 residents. One of the highest in any U.S. city, followed by Baton Rouge at 35 to 100,000. Now, can somebody tell me how those cities tend to lean?
Yes.
Oh, they're both
I'm not going to wait
Democratic.
because it's well over 80% Democrat voting bastions.
heavily Democratic.
So thank you, Gavin Newsom. You just proved our point.
Yeah. So
gave him
that's
the finger.
he's not used to having people argue with him.
Yeah.
Being here in California, he doesn't. I don't think he's fully prepared for what's going to happen. But
What an exciting prospect.
this is going to be great.
Yep.
That's all
I can give
I'm
him a
looking
point.
forward to it.
I can give him a point for saying, yeah, I'm going to come. I'm going to try to do this. If it's in good faith, we'll see. But maybe crossing all my fingers and toes and other bits of my body, maybe he'll learn something. Maybe he will change some of his views and go, oh, well, you know what? Maybe that's right. Maybe, but I'm not gonna hold my breath. Stranger things have happened because there have been some people in my life who have been buying some of these more fringe left-wing things, and I have sat down with them, brought some data, and said, you know what, that's not a great policy. Even Elwin, who was more left of me, we have very good conversations at the beginning of our relationship of like, okay, yeah, I respect where you're coming from, but the facts are, and this is how history has played out on some of these things, so maybe reconsider. And in turn, she's helped me be a little bit more empathetic to certain issues.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I
We don't
spent
get
a good
enough of that, though.
Well, okay,
Just in
just to
general in our lives.
derail my own stupid stream. We were talking about the whole right versus left thing, and some people would consider me pretty far right just because I'm very small government and generally pretty libertarian, but without claiming that children on crack should be able to, blind children on crack should be able to drive. Not that kind of libertarian, sort of small L libertarian. As in, I think liberty is generally a good thing. And if you give me two choices, the one with more liberty is usually the right one. But I've been seeing the effects of what all this liberty's been having, and it's making me rethink a lot of stuff. Like, I've been really rethinking what incarceration should look like. You see some of these videos of these extremely violent men beating the ever-loving crap out of some woman.
Yeah.
And some of them are just sort of flailing around, just hitting these women, and then the women get up and walk away. And then others are just these sadistic animals who go after these women. And it turns my stomach. And I've really been having to think about, well, you know, with DAs like Gascon letting these animals out. And I will say that somebody who savages a woman like that is an animal. So, you know, blame me, whatever. I've been thinking about incarceration and ways to make it work better. Because I don't think that like, for instance, in terms of my rightward march on some social issues, because I've always been pretty right as far as economic stuff goes. I don't want these people, the guy who's flailing around, not hurting the woman as much, to go to prison, get brought into a gang, become hardened by prison, and get jacked in the yard, and then come back out and do an even worse thing to somebody else. Yeah. I really want dangerous people like this to be dealt with in a manner that kind of makes sense. And letting them off is bad. Giving them short sentences is bad. I'm fully prepared to take people who don't belong in society and throw them in a hole somewhere.
But I you know, for some of the most egregious, I agree with you. But I think for a lot of them, I'm not excusing their behavior in any way. Everybody's life experience is different, and sometimes people don't really. I agree. Again, I agree with you mostly, but I'd like to see a little bit of a shift, more aimed towards rehabilitation, as some of the Nordic countries do. Not a full-on adaptation of their system, but just more trying to help people in the prisons so that they would have an avenue to be rehabilitated and not be forced to have to join in a gang so they don't die or they don't get constantly violated or something like that. You know, strength in numbers and all that.
Norway's minimum security prisons are what you're talking about, and they are effectively like a resort. I mean, they're really nice, and the games, the internet are top notch. The food is chef prepared, you know, and they say that if you treat them better, they'll behave better. At least that's the theory.
And well, the recidivism rate is in single digits for those people. And yeah, even sometimes people who've been committed of killing somebody, depending on the sentencing, depending on the individual case, they have been put in these minimum security prisons because it was more, you know, an act of passion or a kind of a one-off thing. They evaluate these people and go, you know, we don't really see them being that sort of animalistic, just at the drop of a pin, wanting to start wailing on another human being. So let's see what we can do to rehabilitate them. And it really does seem to work. In some,
if there's nothing wrong with them, why do they need rehabilitation?
Well, that is the question. But you know what? I've actually I've been thinking about this, and I'm sort of working on a more considered response. Maybe some Tuesday there'll actually be time to talk about this.
Okay.
And Elwin's completely right. Like any other sort of rehab, it's that person, that individual has to want to be better, definitely not fall in those similar patterns.
I'm talking about violent criminals who have done something that basically says you are potentially dangerous to lots of other people. Okay. I'm not talking about like the kid who got caught selling drugs because he grew up in a bad neighborhood and that's just how you that's how you got along. I'm not talking about that. I'm not talking about this. I'm talking about just violent people who need to be kept away from other people, even other prisoners. My desire to throw people in a dark hole is strong now.
Right. like the hardcore people in the series Oz.
Yeah. Oh my god.
Like those people. And I have philosophy about that. I think there are basically people who commit crimes, and it's completely driven by circumstance. It's what Functional is talking about. It's the one-off thing. Then you have people who just make a mistake, one time or even twice, but they're not pursuing that life.
They're not out to hurt somebody. It's more of a
function of circumstance, other thing. And then other people who they're in gangs and they're just in it to win it. They're
and
in
they
it
like
for
that
long
life.
term.
Yeah.
And they like that. And those people, as far as I'm concerned, when you identify them, they should be euthanized.
Locked up and
Right then. No appeal, no nothing, in the courtroom and taken out on a stretcher. That's the way I would do it.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Well, we can talk about this on Tuesday.
It's a very long nuance.
Let me get my show back on track.
Sorry about that.
Hell, you say?
No, it's okay. So there was this. I did it to myself here. Delaware lawmakers pass historic gun legislation, including ban on sale of assault weapons. I'm still waiting to see a useful definition from one of these people about what an assault weapon is.
So they've passed
because
legislation
like
on something
anything I
that
don't
doesn't
like.
exist.
Like a machine gun 16 is an assault weapon, but people can't buy those, right? What do you consider to be an assault weapon? Is it anything that has a magazine of more than 4 shots?
So far, the only. Go ahead.
Hold on a second. Go ahead, Skep first, and then
I was going to say there's so many deer rifles that would qualify as a semi-automatic assault rifle. That and you have people like Joy Behar saying you don't need more than one bullet to kill a deer. That's the level, and she has the same vote that I do. It blows my mind. Sorry.
And a much bigger platform. Go ahead, Functional.
No. Yeah. So far, the only definition I've heard on what technically an assault weapon is there was a German gun that directly translates into like assault machine gun or something like that. It was some weird specific make and model of a gun that was sold at and labeled in the assault gun, and was so far, other than that, nobody has been able to. I get people on the right who say, well, it doesn't exist. And then I get people on the left who go, it's anything I don't like, basically, using a little bit of hyperbole there. Anything that's black looks scary. It's like, well, wait. Maybe that's a little bit of your racism showing if you're saying it because it's black. Facetious. But...
You could pink Cerakote it. That would make it less dangerous.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So
unless they're using it flippantly and saying, okay, what's our definition legally for assault? Well, it's somebody who enacts harm onto somebody else. And no guns do that. People who use the guns could do that, and some people do that. But to label that, what are we going to start labeling assault trucks because a truck gets into a car accident, or somebody tries to hit somebody with a delivery van? They're now assault vans.
Or someone creates a killdozer.
Yeah,
that's an assault dozer.
It's got kill right in the name.
There we go. Assassin of the Grey. Strum.
Well, yeah, that's a Sten.
Storm
rifle.
Called
a Sten. That's called a Sten.
That was the Sten.
Yeah, that's the Sten. I'm pretty sure that's what he's talking about. And
thanks for clarifying, Assassin, because I wasn't sure on the exact minutia.
So, if you were in California, it's the only state I know the gun laws for, not an open carry state. You basically, when you bring your gun home, you have to store it it has to be locked up per some state standards. When you go somewhere, you can basically have it separate from the ammunition in a case in your car and go to the range or to the gun store or some other, short list of things you're allowed to do with it. You're not allowed to just wander around outside a school with a gun, right? Also, all these people who get caught with guns in anything resembling a stop and frisk, where they're not going to the gun store, they're not carrying it the way they're supposed to. And all of these people, if they just enforce the laws, they could, send these people and give them a little timeout so they can think about what they did, and they'd lose their gun. We already have all these laws on the books that if they just use them the way they're supposed to, it would solve 99% of these problems. You wouldn't need red flag laws and all this other stuff. Now, if you're in an open carry state, there may be different considerations, but I am not, despite what I said about that American history class, I'm not pompous enough and arrogant enough to think that I know what the right answer is for, say, Texas. A state that I've never been in, but I'm more than happy to let the local people there figure out what they want to do about it.
Thank you.
Yeah.
That's why states' rights are such a beautiful thing about your country.
States' rights
should be, but
states' rights are racist.
Well, I can tell you what most Californians don't do. When there was a lot of controversy about the Confederate flag, a bunch of my friends were very, very upset about this. This thing that has absolutely nothing to do with them.
That's the
what did I do? I picked up the phone and I called my buddy who was born in Alabama and lives in Georgia and said, hey, what's the deal with this thing? And so he explained to me about the different forms of the Confederate flag and which ones he finds offensive and doesn't use out of personal choice. And he gave me like the whole thing. But I think there's a big difference between just deciding I'm right because I'm one of the good people and this is bad and therefore I don't think they should do this thing, and picking up the phone and actually trying to find out what the hell it's all about. Because I don't pretend to know what society's like in South Carolina.
Harry, it's all about the serotonin. It's all about people wanting to feel good about themselves and say, slavery was bad. The South was for slavery. That was their flag. Ban it, burn it. That'll make me, then I can show how virtuous I am to the world, and the serotonin will flow. That's what drives almost everything.
I did like that meme that was floating around recently, which was with the blue car with the American flag on it. That was called, and it was called the General Grant. It was sort of like the northern version of the General Lee.
Yes, I did see that.
That's hilarious. All right. Awesome. Moving on to the next.
I saw that on your server, as a matter of fact.
Yeah, actually, here's a thing, a story that I saw. Let me make sure you can actually hear this. Let's try this concerning the whole gun thing before we put it to rest.
Dave,
can you hear that?
That's right, Tara, and I had a chance to speak with that homeowner this evening. He says he's lived in that house for the past 20 years and 8 years ago decided to buy a gun. Now he's taken some lessons on how to handle that firearm, and today those lessons were put into action.
So this is June 7th, Detroit. June 7th of this year.
I had to do what I had to do to save my life.
Meso Jackson awoke around 4:30 Tuesday morning to a man pounding on his door and yelling. Parts of the encounter captured on his Ring doorbell camera at his home on Salem Street on Detroit's west side.
Talking about somebody owe him some money or something. I say, ain't nobody owe you no money. I don't know what you talking about.
Jackson says
I think he said it was about $350. Anyway, sorry, no South Park jokes.
$350.
About $350.
So the Loch Ness Monster is real. Look, guys, we have him on camera.
Monster. So, I mean, the long and short of this is that asshole shows up talking about how this guy owes him money. Obviously the wrong guy, wrong house. He calls the police. The police are supposed to show up. The police are not there.
It's Detroit.
And this idiot tries going through the window. And so this guy's in his house with his gun, and he just center massed him into oblivion, as he should have. And he filled out some paperwork and then got taken away. So we always talk about the bad things that happened, but what about this guy? What about his right to defend himself in Detroit of all places?
That doesn't happen, and that didn't happen.
Oh, you're right. I'm just guilty of. It's a hate fact. It's a hate fact that this man didn't die.
They will sit there and say there are a lot of other ways that situation could have gone. What if they just sat down and talked it out?
Mm-hmm. What if he just gave him some money? And then the guy went away. Maybe that guy needed the money more than he did.
What if they healed each other?
Yeah.
That's not healing. Killing is not healing.
Well, I don't really have time for your assault facts, Harry. So I think we should move on.
assault
Yeah,
facts.
I don't think anybody has time for my assault.
I don't agree
facts.
with your facts, so they're assault facts.
Okay.
I'm feeling attacked.
So what do we think about
Oh,
New
God.
York Mayor Back's city-funded drag queen story
Yes.
hour for school children? I don't have
They
any
make
problem
everything
with.
better.
I don't have any problem with drag queens. Fine, go do your drag thing, do your little cross-dressing burlesque show, have a good
Yeah.
time. None of my business. Don't care. But
Sure.
these videos of these parents basically pushing these kids up close to these people in these pride parades and stuff, it's like it sure feels like the parents are forcing the kids into contact with what are effectively burlesque performers. You wouldn't take a 6-year-old or a 5-year-old to a burlesque show. Why
Right.
is like, Thongo the drag queen somehow different? And of course,
Thongo.
let's be fair. There are drag queens that are just dressed up like Dame Edna, and then there's ones that are definitely not quite like Dame Edna. There's way more of the burlesque side to it. So I don't mean to just assume, to just say that every person who dresses up as a drag queen is some sort of degenerate.
And we are not speaking to transsexuals at all here. We're talking about drag queens, completely different thing.
Is it
Well, I think
telling
everybody
that, to
knows
me-
that transsexuals don't consider transvestites or whatever we're calling cross-dressers these days to be the same thing. These are different groups of people.
Yeah,
Different things
I
going
was
on.
saying that for Susan's benefit.
Yeah. Well, and also, I'm sure that there are even people in this community of the drag queens who said that these kids have no business being anywhere near some of the people that are doing this stuff.
Oh, YouTube is full of that, Eric.
So-
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I would say, okay, devil's advocate for this.
Go ahead.
I'm not a big fan of stuff like this, right? Just because of the original more sexualized connotation of what a drag queen is, okay? That's where I feel like there should be a separation. However, if you want to argue on their side, say, well, there is positivity. Well, think about something like a pantomime, right? Half the time, like the ugly stepsisters in Cinderella are men dressed up as the women, right? And they're made up, or they'll have that. So they're, that's fine for kids to go to and see. So it's sort of like the same thing. They're dressed up as, they're overly done up. They look theatrical makeup, funny clothes, and I doubt they're too inappropriately dressed for the little kids. So maybe it's not so bad, like if you think of that way. It feels, because of the history of, and still current, how, drag shows, and how it's more adult themed, and it's cheeky humor, and it's like, it just doesn't feel right to call it like drag show hour or story time or something. That's where I feel the squick coming in, even if maybe all they're doing is dressing in funny clothes, and the kids love it because it's story time, and the person is funny because they're colorful,
Yeah.
It comes with too much of an agenda and a back history to feel 100% normal, I guess.
Well,
But
something
maybe
like
that's
what
bigoted.
Dam Edna does, like you said, is more, it's harmless fun, whereas drag is literally a sexual fetish. Definitively, that's what drag is. People will say it's just dress up. No, that's not just dress up. Just dress up is just dress up. Drag is an actual sexual fetish, and that's where the definitions on, like, the left is trying to blur these definitions and make them all synonymous, where and people who still know what these who care what words, the meanings behind these words, and those people get labeled as whatevers. Is it telling that, to me, the most egregious part is like this is publicly funded shit? Like, that, to me, you know what? If you're a parent and you're parenting these children, as long as they're not in immediate like dangers, like you're not technically grooming or exposing them to overt sexual content, I have no problem with that. That's your business. You want to expose them and teach them about LGBTQRSTUNLLNE and sometimes Y, that's fine. Have at it. Not my business. But to publicly fund it, it just...
Yeah, a drag queen is distinct from a crossdresser which is sometimes called a transvestite, because the motivation of dragging is typically not sexual. Okay. And yeah, if you read the literature, if you read social psychology journals and anthropological journals, that's what they say. So I think you have to kind of, drill that into the thing. I think that's where that dividing line actually is.
Yep. Well, we definitely have. We live in interesting times. Let's see.
I think we can agree that there's a very distinct difference between, say, Dame Edna versus the story that we heard from, I want to say, Wisconsin, maybe it was West Virginia, where the parents were actually aghast because when the gentleman in question uncrossed his legs, it was basically just lacy undergarments that you could, quote unquote, see everything. And I think that is distinctly different than watching Dame Edna on TV, or even having Dame Edna do a story hour. Well,
alrighty then. Is there? That is disturbing. Is there any objection to me skipping the Fourth Amendment piece that's scheduled for next?
No.
What's the Fourth Amendment?
That's the privacy thing.
Privacy.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah.
We're gonna table that for now because we can do that, and we're gonna go to the next section, which I euphemistically call "Fish from Hell." So Sora, I want to see if you can defend this nightmare fuel.
Okay.
Look at that thing.
Jellyfish?
Holy shit.
What the hell?
So basically, these people are checking out. They're checking out. They're checking out the bottom of an oil platform. It's just 3 miles under the freaking ocean,
and it's just
in the Gulf of Mexico. And they're at the ROV down there, and they're just looking around. And suddenly they go, "What?" And they try to get a look at this thing.
It's a big fin squid.
It is a big fin squid. Look at this thing. Wow. Let's kill this. So we're just doing stuff under the sea. What? Look at that!
Oh my god, that is amazing.
That's got to be some kind of weird mutation of its tentacles.
It's creepy as hell is what it is.
Wow.
So it is.
I'm kind of freaking out.
This is so cool.
I'm an
These are
arachnophobe,
cool.
and that is just really triggering me.
I
oh
love
my god.
So
2,000 meters under the sea. Shit.
Can you imagine what else is down there?
No. Let's leave it be. I'd rather go to space.
It's like Slender Man's pet fish. It's terrible. Okay, so what this thing is it's actually the big fin squid, or the
how elegant.
The Magnapina, Magnapina.
Yeah, it is.
Sorry, I suck at pronouncing things.
Yeah, that was my nickname in high school.
So around the year 2000, a woman in Louisiana described an odd large squid more than 20 feet long. Then her boyfriend, that filmed while remotely operating an oil company vehicle in the Gulf of Mexico, he thought, that's got to be a giant squid, an elusive species that biologists had been trying to capture alive on camera for decades. Remember, we didn't always have things running around the the bottom of the ocean taking high-definition video. But the grainy footage was not of a giant squid. It, in fact, was unlike anything unpronounceable had ever seen or heard of before. A squid suspended by undulating fins much larger than its body, with long, spindly arms bent sharply before dropping down into the darkness like a ghostly gossamer. Unpronounceable was able to track down 8 more sightings from deep-sea submarines around the world that hadn't been documented or shared with researchers. He and his colleagues published the findings in December 21st of 2001 in Science. So this is a thing that is so new. We didn't really even know this thing existed until about 20 years ago. It's kind of an amazing creature with these huge, long arms. essentially, they've described it as being like a floating spider web in the deep ocean. Those arms are just collecting food and things as it just sort of trolls around.
Oh, okay.
It's so. Can you imagine? You get stuck in one
No.
of them, and it's like, oh, it's food source, and it just strangles you. It just has to wait for you to lose air, right? And then it can slowly peel off your dive suit and suck
Yep.
your eyes out for
Yep.
nutrients.
Yeah, well, it likes to suck the eyes out last so you can see what it's doing to the rest of you. It's very strategic because it's terrible.
I can just hear Serenity now in the back of my head going, "It's coming to get you! Cthulhu wants you, Functional! Cthulhu will eat you!"
They've dug too deep. They've released him.
I don't know. I think this is a pretty creepy animal. But
Again, the amount of the deeper you get, right? The more pitch black you get because there's no light. So you get all these really weird, translucent, blind, primordial monsters.
Mm-hmm.
Fantastic.
Oh yeah, there's a ton of stuff underneath the water we still haven't even.
What do they taste like?
Oh, bit chewy.
It's cartilage, right? Like a lot of them, it's cartilage. So cartilage doesn't have much of a taste.
Like that
You have to
pho,
season it.
that Vietnamese pho.
Well, if you cut them
The
into
live
rings
squid in it.
and then batter them and fry them, I'm sure they're fine.
That's
Exactly.
acceptable.
The thing about squid and octopus, I don't like when it sticks to the roof of my mouth.
I like Elwyn.
Or when
Some
it
of
tries
it
to
needs to
squirm out
stay
of your
down
mouth.
there.
Useless peanut butter.
Like a dog eating peanut butter. Okay. Let's see. So this actually, because we've been talking about the supply chain, and I don't want to be morose and talk about the United States all the time, but Pakistan has been having a lot of problems. So this is basically
More so than
Pakistan's
usual.
currency. This is US dollars to Pakistani rubles. This is not what you want to have happen with your currency, because it's not like the US dollar has been all that stable. But
It's
this is a
like-
bad time that they're having.
Sorry, is
Yeah.
that increasing in value or?
The US dollar is worth more of them, so theirs is decreasing in value relative.
Oh, there's so that was a scale of what the. Okay, thank you.
So
And
$1
actually,
too.
in places like Turkey and Pakistan, they consume a lot of tea per person, and it's gotten so bad that the Pakistani government's actually asking people to cut back on their tea intake. This is like a big deal for their particular culture.
this is
This is
like,
how you know
you know-
things have gotten bad.
You could afford a house if you only gave up Netflix. Well, gee, what kind of brilliant deduction was that?
Yeah.
This is like telling a sorority girl, by cutting out that one Starbucks per day, you'd be out of student loan debt.
Yeah, right.
Ain't gonna happen.
As their dollars, their rupees go overseas to buy things like tea, the more dollars go out, the less they become worth relative to the things that you can buy with them. This is one of those Milton Friedman monetary things. So the problem with having a big foreign trade deficit is that the dollars that other people have to buy stuff from you become more and more abundant. So they end up becoming less valuable. And so trying to cut down on your imports is a perfectly fine idea. But if they've reached the point where they're telling people to drink 1 or 2 cups of tea less per day, they're not doing so well. So they really want the International Monetary Fund to give them more bailout loans, which really means just give us free money because we're never going to pay this back.
Yeah.
And it's only through the strings that they attach on those things that a lot of these countries, these nice S-hole countries, as Trump described them, actually have any kind of monetary policy at all sometimes. Because as a condition for these things, they'll say, look, you have to do X, Y, and Z in terms of your economy. This is not a particularly efficient way to try to get these people to not behave like the third world. Skep.
It's kind of interesting, just on a cursory search. Like, I noticed that their spice seeds and actual spices exports are quite high. Not 646 million US worth of exports, but you pile on top of that manufacturing exports like textile goods, clothing, shoes, and other various things. I mean, doesn't that sort of help offset?
Well, they
I
had
don't
enough
understand
money.
why the tea.
They had enough money to put together a nuclear program and then want to share the knowledge on how to make an atomic bomb with the rest of the Arab world.
Yeah.
And then they wonder why they don't get the Marshall Plan type money that they used to.
Or those American hard-earned tax dollars that certain countries get.
And they weren't really all that helpful in the search for bin Laden either. So,
No.
yeah, well,
I mean, that's one of the reasons why I feel that Trump went and spoke to Modi, is because he wanted to start making political ingresses into that part of the world. I mean, sure, it's not Pakistan and very much to the contrary, but I mean, I understand. You know, it's the notion of going to certain parts of the world that really weren't on the friendliest of terms and realizing, hey, these could be big players in the economic future of the world.
Well, the thing about Pakistan is they have a lot in common with India, but they're a hell of a lot less successful. Well, I mean, if you look, well, they could reap a lot of the kind of economic growth that India has had, at least in lesser measure, if they just stopped being irritating and basically being Pakistan. They have the capacity to help their people and not be assholes, but enjoy having less tea. Anyway, moving on.
Do you know what the number one country in the world for per capita consumption of tea? Pakistanis per capita per year consume about 1 kilogram of tea. Do you know what the number one country in the world is for
I do.
per capita tea consumption? It's Turkey.
It is Turkey.
But the interesting thing is, you know what number 2 is? Ireland.
Good job, Ireland.
Ireland consumes twice as much tea per person as Pakistan does.
Wait, I thought
Wow.
Ireland, as Pakistan. Yeah.
Yeah.
But they still consume a lot of tea in Pakistan.
Oh, they consume a lot of tea. It ranks them about 11th in the world.
Yeah, they don't quite make the top 10th, but they drink
Yeah.
a lot. And then there's me.
Still the number one consumed beverage in the world.
At the
Second to
beginning of
coffee.
the pandemic, I bought, God, what was it? There's a tea that I like from this one place in India. I know I'm fancy. And I bought all of what I could find left online. I mean, all of it. I basically bought all of the remaining bit of this crop, which was like 10 pounds of tea.
So in the commodities business, we would say you went long 10 contracts in tea.
I did. I got it. I brought it back. I put it in mason jars, and then there's a way you can use a vacuum sealer to basically take the air out of it and then drop the lid on it and then put it in a dark place. So I've got plenty of tea. If the supply chain goes down, I'm not going to be without tea. Plus, I have 3 tea plants in my backyard that I plan to plant so I can have more tea. Because it's like I'm committed to my tea drinking lifestyle. And I'm not giving up my tea.
Good for you. I actually drink a Japanese tea. It's called Ripton. That's a joke, tea joke.
Nice.
Anyway. Yeah, thanks for laughing.
Surprise. Yeah, the surprise officer. Anyway, let's see. So this is the thing. Smithfield Foods to shutter California meatpacking plant. I know, what a huge surprise. It's really expensive and annoying to do business in California. So Smithfield, which packages lots and lots of pork, is just going to close their California plant and say, see you later. Operating costs in California are much higher than in other areas of the country, including taxes and price of water, electricity, and natural gas. Our utility costs in California are 3.5 times higher per head than our other locations where they do the same type of work.
That's insane.
Wow.
So this is like all your Farmer John stuff. The Vernon plant, which is in Southern California, has been the target of repeated protests by animal rights activists over its treatment of hogs. It was also hard hit during the COVID-19 pandemic, with some 300 employees exposed to infection in 2020. Yeah, you know, all those essential workers who kept the supply chain going and made sure everybody had food.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, These were some of them, and some of them got sick because they actually had to show up for work before there was a vaccine. And, you know, but we're blaming Smithfield for not just shutting down and having all these people slaughter pigs from home. I mean, what exactly did you think was going to happen? California
These
Division of
anecdotes.
Occupational, well, Cal OSHA basically fined them $60,000 for this thing. So you add that to the cost of the, you know, all the utilities
Doing
and what it costs to
business.
run this plant,
Yeah.
and the fact they're
Constant
being
annoyance.
protested all the time. And it's like,
Yeah.
it's just sort of screw you. And there's one more aspect to this which I want to bring up, and then I'll hand you the.
They're going to be
the
owned by
thing,
China soon?
Skep. The bacon apocalypse. There's a California law which went into effect. It was a state initiative, which mandates how you raise hogs.
Oh, God.
And it's going to make it significantly more expensive to raise hogs or sell any pork products in California. This is a big problem. So I can totally see why Smithfield just said, well, screw you and the horse you rode in on. We're just getting out of here. Go ahead, Skep.
No, you know, this business flight from California, which is what this is an example of, is what the Republicans or whoever runs against Gavin Newsom when as he inevitably will run for national office. This is the stuff that people are going to gather together and say, if you elect this guy, this is what he did to California. And, you know, I hate that this is happening to, you know, the companies out there, because I know the kind of misery Harry does too. I'll bet, and maybe some of you other folks know what it's like to when a business goes under real stress, life and death stress. A large business, it is not a good time for anybody. It is a terribly, terribly stressful time. People commit suicide over this stuff routinely.
Mm-hmm.
And I know the kind of misery that's going on down there. And then all this crap is avoidable. This is to you know, this kind of a garbage is to make people like Gavin Newsom feel better about themselves, that, you know, at least we're doing something with those evil meat packers. People shouldn't eat meat anyway, you know.
Yeah.
They tuck into a big soy burger. Fuck you.
Beyond taste. Isn't that what it's called? Beyond
Yes.
taste? I don't remember.
Yes.
Beyond meat.
So
Beyond
really
Yeah.
quickly,
Without taste.
the nice lady who's running the animal shelter in California, who says she won't adopt to the program people, even PETA,
Yeah.
has said, what the hell are you doing? How far, speaking
This
of
is very funny.
what we
This
talked
is
about
very
at the
funny.
beginning
Anyway.
of the show,
Oh my God.
the whole 80% of things people agree on, you know, so I'm sure PETA and she agree about 80% of things, but you get to the hard 20 where it's like, well, we're an organization that's trying to help animals and we don't necessarily want them to get killed. Let's leave the PETA kill shelters out of this because we have a lot to cover. But
Yeah.
ostensibly, they care about animal welfare. Let's just leave that as a given, knowing that it's not
Stipulated.
entirely true.
Sure.
Stipulated.
Yeah. So even they are saying, what the hell are you doing now? What I didn't know was that I look at this picture and I go, wow, what's low budget Christy Brinkley doing here? It turns out she used to be an actress. So
Imagine my shock.
yeah, I know. Imagine my shock. And she's doing something that's getting all these people to suddenly start paying attention to her again.
With a face like that, she knows her way around a casting couch, I'm thinking.
She's one of those narcissistic actress types, and she's just trying to make a big stink so that people will pay attention to her again. And I say we just ignore her.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
You know what? The only thing that this article made me think about was, okay, so your views on gun control. You believe that all guns should be turned in and they should be the sole property of the government. That's acceptable. We have one more question. How do you feel about abortion? Isn't that the next thing? Won't that be the next thing? Of course it will. These people will not stop until you accept their entire agenda, and any deviation from their entire agenda sends these people into orbit. The extremists, the ones way out there. So anyway, I just thought I would.
You're on the wrong side of history. You know, they consider what they sell to their opponents as a compromise is really just, well, we gained ground. We gained ground, and we're just going to come back and get the rest of it later. You've already established that you're willing to compromise on your principles, is the way they look at it, to their opponent. Yep. So there's no reason not to come back later. Let's see. So there was this little thing that happened on the Twitter. So what the hell is going on with Granholm? There was a time when I thought, well, maybe she's not so terrible, and that was years ago.
Yeah.
But you know, here she is now. Here she is basically talking about, well, we're telling the oil industry we're going to shut them down in 5 to 10 years, and they're no longer welcome because they're destroying the planet. And then we complain that they're not producing enough fuel, and we tell them to invest a bunch of money. And at the same time, threaten to tax them into oblivion because they're making money at all, you know, during the whole shortage situation. Oh my God. I can't figure out if she's just a complete genius and she can just flip this switch in her head that lets her engage cognitive dissonance mode, or if she's actually as dumb as she looks like she is.
She doesn't have the background to do the job that she's being asked to do. I think that's part of the problem.
Yeah.
She's at sea. She's trying to execute policy that she doesn't understand the implications of, in my opinion.
Yeah, we'll talk about wanting to have your cake and eat it too. We're going to shut you down. Oh, by the way, why aren't you investing more money? Shut up. It's stupid. Yeah. Anyway, I'm gonna move this on to something even dumber, and it could have gone into the Californication block. But
wait. I was going to say the robberies will continue until your company's more profitable. Thank you.
Okay,
we're leaving now.
So this is a thing. So California decided that we didn't want to build a bunch more power plants in order to handle the load for all the air conditioning and all the economic growth and all the stuff that we were experiencing over the last couple decades. So they actually made a deal with people. If you put solar on your rooftop, we will basically charge you for the difference between what you produce and what you consume. Mm-hmm. It's called net energy metering. And it's gone so incredibly well that we have like 20 gigawatts of solar deployed. It's this huge amount of solar. On any given hot day in the middle of summer, when you would normally have like this huge 55, gigawatt demand for power, and everything would start browning out, 25% of that basically gets done away with solar panels on people's rooftops. And this has made it so they don't have to build a bunch of new power plants. Saves everybody money. Win-win-win, right? Good for the environment, good for the economy, saves everybody money. Kumbaya. Congratulations, this is going great. Unfortunately, PG&E, Southern California Edison, and all these other people who employ former heads of the Public Utilities Commission as their lobbyists have put together this huge reach around with the Public Utilities Commission to try to basically that was great, but how about we just screw everybody instead? The gist of this is they want to pay a lot less money for the power that's produced. And there are some things in here which I actually think are somewhat legitimate. But they want to do things like include, oh, you have solar panels on your roof? Well, rich people have solar panels, and they use this to avoid buying power from the grid, which means they don't pay their fair share of the amount of money it costs to maintain the grid. So for every kilowatt of solar panels you have on your roof, we want you to pay us $8 a month. Meaning if you have 10 kilowatts of solar on your roof to avoid paying money to PG&E, since you're obviously rich, we're going to take that money and we're going to just charge you a tax of $80 a month. Jeez. Or whatever it ends up being. And PG&E's like, no, this is great because all the money that we've been giving you to encourage you to put solar on your roof would be much better spent on large solar projects that we do ourselves and then charge you for the power that we produce. That's a much better use of the money that we've been using. what a complete monumental screw job. And there's so much more about it, but I don't want to try everybody's patience and spend the next hour talking about net energy metering plan 3.0 and what a huge screw job it is. I'm not particularly happy about this. They want to also retroactively go back and apply this to a bunch of people's plans that they had. So they were grandfathered in for 20 years, and they want to basically reduce the grandfathering period and then just screw the hell out of any new person who wants this. So any incentive that you had to just throw 5 kilowatts of solar panels on your southern-facing roof to offset your bill, so you didn't have to pay 32 cents a kilowatt hour. That's what the base rate is in California. That's the minimum you pay, 32 cents a kilowatt. That's like 3 times what you pay, Skep, isn't it? Because I think we compared power bills at one point. You there, Skep?
Uh-oh. He says,
Okay,
be right back.
Okay. Yeah, so I've compared power bills with Skep, and he just seemed like he couldn't believe what he was looking at.
Sorry about that. I'm back now.
Oh, no, that's cool. Go ahead, Sora.
California is just losing its mind. I can't remember if was it something you or Geode shared. It was a video where they're saying like, well, they've closed down the power plant. They're going to stop pipelines. They're going to want people to do more electric cars because they don't want gas products, but because they are closing down any alternative energy source, especially something like nuclear, well, they're going to have more oil plants to power like the batteries or the charging stations for your electric vehicles, which means this is one of the reasons they're doing the rolling brownouts and stuff like that. It feels like something out of a dystopian, futuristic dystopian film from the 80s or something. It's pretty bad, actually.
Yeah. Well, and
alarming.
Please don't dox me here, because we don't need to get into the details of it. But I think I can safely say I have a lot of solar because I have no particular love for PG&E. My solar today produced 126 kilowatt hours. That's just me. That's just me. And in winter I produce like 60. I don't need PG&E. PG&E can just go take a stab at a rolling donut down a hill. I don't care. But it's bad because you think, oh, well then, Harry, why don't you just go off grid? I can't, because the building code refers to the energy code, and you can't have a structure that doesn't have electrification, that isn't connected to the grid. I legally can't disconnect from the damn grid.
Funny how that works.
Yeah.
You need a better state.
Hey, if I could just
everyone is leaving California.
If I could just pick my mid-century modern house up and put it next to Skep's, we would just be happy. We would just be hanging out.
Yep.
It'd be great.
Yeah, it would be awesome. It really would.
Party at Skep's. Sorry,
Again,
Sora, I didn't mean to cut you off there. You were saying something?
I was just saying that it's no wonder why everyone's leaving California when they keep doing one stupid move after the other. Like this.
Well, yeah,
we're going to encourage you to do clean energy, right? Solar power. Yeah. Here's incentives, depending on where you live, how many panels will determine, what you need, what your power consumption is. Hey, maybe we'll give you some subsidies. You want to have to put in those power converters for your car or something like that, like an EV point. Sure, all of these stuff. And now it's just like, oh, great, I can sell a bit of the power back to the state if you can do that there and get a little money back, whatever it is. No, but surprise, it's a trap. We didn't really mean it.
Yeah,
it's amazing, that old adage of you can attract more flies with honey than you do with vinegar. I kind of feel like, my inner libertarian's coming out here. It's okay. It's one thing, and I find it morally okay, and in practice okay to encourage, but not to legislate things like this. This is ridiculous.
Yeah, but if you're attracting flies, what works better than honey? A neutron
Shotgun.
star.
A black hole. Stacy.
Oh my God. Yeah, exactly. Or Lizzo. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, the half-life of a neutron outside of an atom is only about 10 minutes. I think this is a bad idea, Skep. Do you know how dangerous a lump of neutrons would actually be?
Yes, exactly.
You would be so beyond dead. It'd be dead plus plus. It would not be good.
Yeah,
Anyway.
but it's a quick, instantaneous death, whereas living under Gavin Newsom is a slow, agonizing, painful, destructive, tear you down bit by bit over the course of, like a Sarlacc pit over 10,000 years.
Okay. You're forcing me to say something nice about Newsom. Okay, one more thing about this, and then
No,
we're moving
I'm
on because
not.
I don't want to exhaust chat's patience on this particular topic. But I figure everybody who doesn't live in everybody who lives in California can go, yeah, I know this sucks, and everybody who doesn't goes, yeah, you're stupid. Why do you live in California? At least I don't live there. So everybody wins. Everybody wins as long as we don't do it for too long. So the world's richest man makes both electric cars and solar panels. And so the world's richest man has Gavin Newsom's cell phone number. He called up Newsom and said, what the hell do you think you're doing about this thing? And that's the only reason it hasn't gone through yet, is because there are actually people telling Newsom, really, is this what you want to do? You sure about this?
Can
So
you imagine the conversations?
I can't imagine the conversation, and I think it ended up with Elon saying, "Yeah, I'm voting Republican from now on. Screw you people, and I'm moving to Texas." So, on a good note, what do you think happened when the same bullshit tried to be done in Florida? Because power companies everywhere are greedy bastards. Well, this is what happened. Florida governor vetoes anti-rooftop solar bill. Yes. This is the way it's supposed to happen. The governor's supposed to be the adult in the room and say, what the hell do you think you're doing? And say, no, we're not going to do that.
Good. For once, Florida is not Florida,
Yeah. Good job,
It's a new
Florida
kind of
man.
Florida.
Exactly.
Big forest.
It's a unique, positive story, but we like it.
Yeah, let's see. How are we doing here? We've made up a whole hell of a lot of time. We're actually ahead of schedule. How did we manage to do that? Okay.
You skipped something.
I skipped two things. Must have seemed like a good idea at the time. So what do we think of this story? Oh, shut up. Discriminatory and stigmatizing, scientists push to rename monkeypox viruses.
Yeah.
How?
Because that's important.
Why?
Sora-
What do you
Sora-
hear, Helen Branswell, when you hear the name monkeypox?
I
Do
mean,
you think of black people? Because that's kind of racist.
exactly, because I think last I checked, we're all primates.
Yeah.
I mean, all of us.
Yeah.
I mean, no, I don't mean to offend anybody, but we're all part of the same family tree. It doesn't bother
I'm
me. I don't know why it bothers
reptilian?
anybody else.
Yeah.
Excuse you?
You mean one of the space reptilians or one of the Earth reptilians?
No, I'm the Earth reptilian.
Oh, okay. You don't like those illegal alien space reptilians.
No. One planet. Make
Earth first,
great
man.
again. Mega.
Earth first.
Earth-centric.
Make Gaia great again.
So wait, is Sora one of the Voth? Sorry, Star Trek joke.
So
Wait.
Sorry.
Wasn't monkeypox first discovered in monkeys?
Yes.
Isn't that why it was labeled monkeypox?
It's a zoonotic that has transferred
Yeah.
over to human beings. We
Yeah.
could speculate about exactly how that happened.
Aw.
I would choose
I was
not
about to go there. But
Oh,
maybe we shouldn't.
Can we highlight Elwin's "Does cowpox offend fat people"?
Or chicken pox offend Karens?
Well played. Well played. Well played.
That's
Hey,
good one.
Camel. Man, yeah, I just, what is it with the left and words? They just love redefining language so they can essentially take control of the verbal landscape.
Which is
and-
power.
Yeah,
Right,
that's by
language is
design.
power. Exactly. And
Language
then
drives
there's
politics, drives culture.
there's this stuff where it's like, well, I know that technically this is fine and this is how we've always named things, but we find your naming scheme problematic because what if? And then the whataboutery starts. It's like, okay, so what if what? What exactly is the issue here? And how much free time do these people have on their hands? Clearly a lot.
No, you're not wrong.
They gotta earn that paycheck.
Yeah, it's like,
Being
what the
a
hell?
Writer for a trashy rag.
Whenever I see stuff like this where they're taking something that's scientific or whatever and they're putting it into a sociological, I don't know if that's the right, cultural, how about a this year kind of lens. I think about, I can't even remember what it was that NASA engineer who was interviewed with the hula girl t-shirt on, it was a monumental thing, and he was all excited, and the internet tore him apart because he was wearing this misogynistic hula girl, anti-Hawaiian people, something.
All he did was land a fucking rover on Mars.
Yeah.
Ableist.
But no, all they cared about, this poor guy, was tearing him apart over a really nice looking button up that just there's nothing wrong with it.
That actually backfired pretty satisfyingly on a lot of those people. They got identified as proto-Karens.
Oh yeah, an assassin reminds us here his best friend, a woman, made that for him. So but this is the same idea.
Internalized something, right?
Yeah.
She's a colonial, internalized colonials, whatever. But this is the same it's the same flavor of stupidity, right?
Shingles of fence houses.
And
stop.
She's vicious sometimes. I have to correct you, Skep, because the feat was even more amazing than something like landing a rover on Mars, which is a relatively non-fast moving object. They landed it on a comet.
Oh,
which, I mean, even in all of my consumption of science fiction, wouldn't think had been possible in my lifetime. Maybe landing on Mars, sure, I saw that as a possibility. Landing on Europa or even in the realm of possibility, even though it's something we haven't done yet, landing on a comet? Are you crazy?
That's actually insane. A very similar. It's a very similar problem. The math is actually very similar.
Yeah. But my point is, like, moving on something
many
moving
things
at
can
an
go
incredible
wrong.
Speed with so much debris surrounding it is
comets
is
do go fast. Comets do go fast, relatively.
That's why you need to relatively go at the same speed.
Come on.
Yeah, I know.
I love you, but killing me. It's like trying to hit a bullet with a smaller bullet while wearing a blindfold. That was my terrible Scotty impression.
See, if you're standing on the comet, Mars looks like it's going really fast.
Yes. I saw that movie. That was the one with Bruce Willis. Where they just say, well, we've got a problem in space. Let's just find some people who are really good at drilling holes from Earth and train them up real good. Stick them in a space shuttle with some duct tape holding some extra crap on the side of it. And then just send them up there. It'll be fine. Right. This is fine. I can almost hear, what is it, the critical drinker, isn't it? Who is it? Who's that guy?
Critical drinker.
Is it the critical drinker? I can hear his voice in my head. Yeah. This is fine. Yeah.
I agree.
I like his
it's a completely silly thing, but I turn off my analytical brain and I love it. I loved Armageddon. I thought it was just fun, crazy. Like, are you kidding me? It's just one mishap after another. Like all these other movies, The Day After Tomorrow, Greenland, these apocalyptic movies. Mm-hmm. It's just it's so stupid, and the premise is so unrealistic. But
The Day After Tomorrow.
Yes, I did too. Sora.
It's one of my favorite movies.
That is.
I'm trying to remember which one is that one.
It's when we freeze into another ice age, and that you're able to outrun the sudden freezing.
Yeah.
That's I enjoyed the really bad sci-fi knockoff version of that even more with Dean Cain. Oh, that was beautiful.
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
So
we've got to
there.
find the secret installation that's like in Russia, and only Dean Cain, scientist / army ranger, can get the people through this thing.
Exactly. He sure is good at a lot of things. Yeah, but
Yeah.
totally not a very soon. Yeah,
Good job, Dean.
Impact.
A movie that is an old movie that still holds up, and it's a science fiction movie.
Oh, please tell me.
And it's a post-apocalyptic movie. It's called On the Beach.
Yes.
And I recommend it to everybody. People say, "Oh, that's from the the '60s." It is an awesome movie and really worth your time. On the Beach, check it out.
Cool.
So anyway,
All right.
it's very much in that vein. And
So-
also, I like Invasion from Mars just because it mentioned Slim Whitman.
Well, somehow we got from, what was it, monkeypox, and we're still calling it monkeypox, so they can suck it, to whatever the hell this conversation is. So let me do this.
We should
So
call it
there's this-
Poxypox.
So there's this woman, Yasmin Abdel, whatever. I can't pronounce her stupid name. She's a Sudanese Australian media presenter and writer, and she wins all these awards. So she's born in Sudan, moved to Australia. She was named Young Queenslander of the Year in 2010. I'm sure that was completely merit-based. And then she was Queensland Australian of the Year in 2015 for her engagement in community work. Stupid name has been raised in the United Kingdom since 2017. Been based in the UK since 2017. She made some comments during Anzac Day, which is like a big war memorial day.
Yes, Memorial Day, exactly.
And she managed to piss off the Australians something fierce by
Did she
basically
also
saying,
say "Have a good weekend"?
yeah, it was sort of along those lines. She said, oh, okay, well, here we are. On Anzac Day, 25 April 2017, stupid name posted, "Lest we forget," and then started listing other places. Sorry? I heard something.
Yeah, I think there was some background stuff.
Oh, okay.
That's okay.
No, it's okay. So she started listing other places where there were prisoners and things that had nothing to do with Anzac Day. On her personal Facebook page, the phrase "lest we forget" is commonly used in war remembrance services and commemorative occasions in English-speaking countries. In particular, Remembrance Day and Anzac Day, it is used to remember fallen military personnel as a mark of respect. Well, her trying to basically say, well, what about all these other people around the world on that particular
Go fuck
day,
yourself.
pissed off the Australians a lot.
It pissed me off when she did it. I remember when she did this. I went ballistic.
Yeah, she's a monumental. She's a monumental piece of shit.
Material type.
Yeah. So this happened recently on Australian television to give you an idea of just what the Australians look like when they're angry.
Yasmin Abdel. Right one here. Do you remember Yasmin Abdel Naguib?
Skep does.
I do. Well, she has been talking about her feelings about Australia and Australians and even Australian accents. She says she's triggered, she's traumatized when she hears an Australian accent. Such is, I don't know, ill feeling towards us. The Sudanese-born 31-year-old, who, remember, she was made Young Queenslander of the Year.
Yeah, she was
Huge
sent
honour.
around the world on taxi,
DFAT.
sent around the world in foreign
That's
affairs. Yep.
She said if she even hears an Australian accent, I will leave, she said.
Screw you, beautiful ripper. Yasmin, oh, come on, Yasmin, you can't do this shit like that. No one was thinking that. Come on, mate. Yeah.
Now, I got an idea. Would it just be like really funny? Because she's living in London now. You know, there's a lot of Australians everywhere. So any Australians over there who are having to run into a restaurant, so just say, wrap up the stride and really, give it a good old crocodile Dundee crap.
Can you replay that and put the subtitles? Because I didn't understand a fucking word they just said.
Actually,
let's be honest. Your accent is ridiculous.
There are no
Stop it.
subtitles for Australia. I'm sorry. Look, I click on subtitles, nothing happens.
There's no Rosetta Stone. Nothing. You either know
the
or you
girl
don't.
on the left is from. I'll tell you, is from probably northwest or straight northern Australian. That's that buzzsaw accent they have up there. I'm from Darwin. I can't even do it. It's so exaggerated. It sounds exaggerated to my American ear. To them, it sounds perfectly normal. I've heard people from places like Darwin and north of Alice Springs, and you can hardly understand them. You know that they're speaking some dialect of English, but you're damned if you can figure it out.
Yeah, it's like some sort of Cockney rhyming slang with a weird accent.
Exactly.
It's like, it's like north and south, it's fork and mouth. What's wrong with you?
So
North and south makes sense. It's the same Cockney rhyming slang, but it's just upside down.
Yeah.
Sorry, Sora, go ahead.
So, funnily enough, she's born in Arkansas.
Was she really?
She's an American-born Australian right-wing opinion columnist. Her name is Rita Panahi. So she's Iranian. She's an Iranian national ethnicity.
Follow me. That's Rita Panahi. That's right. Yeah. She used to follow me on Twitter. We followed each other and actually DM'd a couple of times. I've still got those around for someplace. I knew her from someplace. Yeah, that's Rita.
Yep.
I'll be darned.
It is a small world after all.
Her accent is a really fun mixture of her, I guess, her Arkansas upbringing, and then any Iranian sort of second language, plus her schooling in Australia.
She really does sound like she comes from the northern parts of Australia, because that really is
pretty awesome.
What that accent sound like. So it's interesting. I had no idea. I actually had some very nice exchanges with her, agreeing with one another violently about 2 or 3 years ago. And I will say this, that her Twitter picture at the time certainly does not look like she looks like now. She looks like she's put on about 30 pounds from her Twitter picture.
He's living well. Since we're actually a little bit ahead of schedule now, I'm going to go ahead and bring back that Fourth Amendment thing, if that's okay.
Right.
Before we do something fun. Well,
I'm sorry, the noises. We got a new kitten. She's 9 weeks old, so it's been a little bit of an adjustment between a 21-year-old cat and a 9-week-old kitten that just wants to play, and so they're screaming and yelling, and you got to kind of separate them.
So what is a stingray?
Well, I'm going to say, I think we both know, but I want to hear what our Canadian brethren think of this hell device. Yeah. So essentially, the cops have a device called a stingray, and what it does is you just deploy it. You can put it on a drone, you can put it on a birthday balloon, you can Velcro it to the side of a building, whatever the hell you want to do. You just have to deploy this thing. And what it does is it just pretends to be part of the cellular phone system. And by pretending to be part of the cellular phone system, it can look at which IMEI numbers are located in which areas. It's a way of, without a warrant or doing anything else, just sitting there and figuring out where the hell everybody is, what they're doing, and where they're going. And they have been having a lovely time in the United States just deploying these things, because I'm sure they would never abuse this completely extrajudicial, without a warrant authority to just mass monitor huge numbers of people within range of a cell tower. Doesn't this sound about right? I mean, don't you think Justine could use one of these?
I think we already do.
Gross.
It is pretty gross.
Yeah.
So that picture reminds me.
I mean, to me, that's unlawful search and seizure of, if we're considering your personal information to belong to the individual, which I certainly do, that's an unlawful search and seizure of private communications and private information. So,
how do you have an expectation of privacy?
You mean in Canada or in general?
No, out in the open air, which is what this thing is plucking things from. It is in the public space, and our laws really are written for that paradigm. And what we need is, in the words of Thomas Kuhn, a paradigm shift. We need when he wrote about the structure of scientific revolutions, we've had a scientific revolution. We need a new paradigm for the Fourth Amendment that does protect those things. And I think actually, if you went in there, and we need Prospero for good commentary here, I think you would find the actual protections in law and precedent pretty sparse for this. That this is, there just is. It's just a fertile area of the law where there's no guidance as to what the expectation of privacy is and how it must be by law protected.
Well, I think I've gotten into this discussion over the years, being online with people a bunch of times. And I've tried to make the point that I don't think people understand how powerful computers are in terms of their ability to take information from a lot of different sources and put it together to form a picture of somebody. So if you go into a public place and somebody has a camera, and suppose you've got a daughter and she's at an awkward age. She's like 13 or 14, cute girl, and somebody takes a picture of her as she's walking through like downtown, part of the mall or something. That's one picture, that's totally legal. Now take the other example of, suppose there was a series of drones that flew around the city that was operated by the government. And it took pictures of her every single place she went. So there was a timeline of where she went and who she met with and all this sort of information. We're still taking pictures in public, right? But what's the difference between one picture and 1,000 pictures, or 29 point whatever frames per second that you use for
what
video?
I'm saying is the government does not recognize that difference there.
Right. So you could say, well, so if one picture is legal, then video is legal. Okay.
Right.
And then you say, well, why not a private company? And why can't that private company take the information and sell it to somebody? Like, suppose there's somebody says, I think your daughter's pretty. I'd like to know what she enjoys doing so that I can spend more time with her in her general vicinity. So you could make it so creepy stalkers could buy information about what your 14-year-old daughter does.
Right.
Exactly.
Oh,
and it doesn't matter if it's a 19-year-old. It's not just about being underage. I'm just trying to ramp up the creep factor as much as possible, because I don't think people have thought through the implications. And something like this can be misused too.
Well, there's a TV series. It was on Netflix. At least here in Canada. I don't know if it's still on there. Might be Brazilian or something. It's South American of some sort. Where basically, if you want to live in the city in polite society, every citizen has their individual little bug. That's a camera that follows you, and it records how you interact with people, how you behave, what you do, everything. It comes into your house, it comes into your work. It basically follows you around. And if you want to be poor or whatever, and you don't want this, then those are people live in countryside or whatever, but they don't have the amenities of living in a city. They don't have the healthcare. They don't have all that sort of stuff. And it's set in the future, right?
It's called Omniscient.
That's it. That's the show. Yep. That's the show. And it's basically to prove that they control crime this way, because no one can ever do crime when you have your little buddy with you, and it's a better society because you're under 24/7 supposedly 24/7 surveillance. This is what this feels like. It's already been dreamed about and shown that, oh yeah, it's totally possible. But here's the reason why it's so horribly bad,
Yeah.
I'm super old-fashioned. I just want two things. I want you to show probable cause, and I want you to get a damn warrant. That's not a big ask. I just want you to do what you're supposed to do when you tap somebody's phone or other thing. I know it's sort of a gray area, but to me, intercepting telecommunications is just wrong. You should go through the process that you do. Yeah.
We need some law there. We really, truly do.
I'm sure Ketanji Brown will straighten this out. Sorry.
Well, yeah, once she figures out what a woman is.
So, Harry, I did a quick look-see-loo. Canada's been using MotZ detectors since 2005. However, since then, when no warrant was obtained by law enforcement outside of exigent circumstances, they were charged. The Royal Canadian Mounted Police were charged for illegal activities by doing so. And that we've actually had, and this is according to the CBC, so it's fairly left-wing sort of state-controlled media are even reporting that there are private groups here who are fighting against it and ensuring and want to dig up all the cases where these things have been deployed and start fighting back against the police, because here it does specifically say it is right now part and parcel to our Radio Communications Act, in saying that no, you cannot intercept any communications without probable cause, which wipe a little bead of sweat off my brow. Okay, that's better. It's not great, but it's better that you need a warrant. You need probable cause, because like I was saying, unlawful search and seizure is never a good thing.
Yeah. Would you need a warrant to put a tracking device on somebody's car? And the answer to that is obviously yes. This is effectively the same thing. This is the same thing, except they're trying to exploit a loophole. Well, we didn't attach anything to their car. Well, we're just monitoring. We're not just monitoring one person. We're monitoring everybody within range of this.
They drove over it and it picked up. In their tire.
Nobody, not me,
if I
in
want
chat
to tag somebody.
says it perfectly. Government using the private sector to do what they cannot do legally. Which, I mean.
Well, here they're not even using the private sector. They're buying these devices and running them themselves.
Oh, these are actually bought and run by the local. Oh, I thought they were just sort of telling the telecom company.
I don't really feel like it makes any difference. Now, the telecom thing is another thing. They can just make a phone call and say, well, this is super important because there's like a child or an old person at risk. Just tell us the location of this thing. And a lot of times the cell phone companies will just hand out that information just based on the plea that's made over the phone. They don't always insist on a warrant. But we need a break after this terrible thing. Warrants are for losers and people who don't care about children or something.
Exactly.
What do you think of this?
Well, if you got nothing to hide, Skep, why do they need a warrant?
Transgender artist brings her urgent work to the streets of Basel. Now, do you see anything about this statue that just sort of jumps out at you?
kind of sticks out.
Starts with a she, ends with a peen.
So we've got a statue of a naked penis owning person. And then the caption on the little podium the pedestal it's on just says woman.
Well,
okay.
This is a statue that's really about the eternal question: why do women have such small penises?
Yeah.
I couldn't say anything funnier than that.
Oh, I could think of a lot of things to say, but I don't want us to get canceled.
I was also being careful, but
this is a self-portrait, by the way. Sometimes. This is a self-portrait, a sculpture by the artist Puppies. That's the name of the artist, Puppies. So a trans artist. This is them with their feminine penis and proclaiming in statue form that they are in fact a woman.
Or maybe it's a social commentary about how men are always standing on women and women are nothing but boxes.
Yeah, well, I'm glad Puppies is living her best life.
I went back and forth with Monkey this week on Twitter about this.
About this story?
Not this story, but this idea. The idea of what constitutes a woman. And essentially, if you say that anything can be a woman, and you are taking a perfectly useful term that says, this is the part of the human race that bears children and has this equipment and develops this way and has this set of hormones and blah, 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 blah. And what you're doing is you're taking that and just tossing it away. And you're saying, now we're going to redefine that word so that anyone who feels a certain way, if they say they want to be a woman, they are to be called a woman. Well, that's fine, but all it does is it strips woman of the formerly useful meaning, and over time, that meaning that they think is so important right now, I think will erode away for that reason.
Yeah, it's a functional definition.
Yes,
the idea
I have
of
nothing
woman.
to do with this.
The point is, it isn't just.
No, you're right.
It isn't just a label that's assigned by a doctor at birth. What it does is it talks
something.
about it's not about a pile of secondary sexual characteristics. It's a functional definition which talks about a role that an organism in a species plays. Humans are a dimorphic species. There's differences between men and women. The advantages of sexual reproduction, everybody seems to forget what the basics are. At its very basic form, what is the advantage of sexual reproduction versus asexual reproduction, Skep?
Well, the advantage of sexual reproduction over asexual reproduction is you get a smarter organism. You get a more sophisticated, complicated organism.
Well, you get change a lot faster. Because essentially, an asexual
that's
reproduction,
the result of the rapid change,
right, means you just take the same genetics. You reproduce amongst yourself, and if there's a
Meiosis
mutation,
versus mitosis,
if you take like a mutation, there's tiny changes over time when something. But sexual reproduction means, hey, let's take a whole bunch of genetics, put it in the DNA mixmaster. Shuffle the cards, and then out comes some amazing new thing that two organisms make, which is drastically different than either of the two that they start with. That's the advantage. You get huge rates of change, right? Which means
it results in a more complicated and interesting organism.
Well, it results in a better adapted organism, but you know what I'm trying to say. The point is there are roles.
Violently.
There are roles in reproduction that matter, and you cannot just talk about social constructs and pretend that biology doesn't matter. And it even gets into some very messy stuff, pun intended, like sperm competition. The way humans reproduce is important, and pretending that it's just social construct is dumb, because it means you don't understand biology. At least Ketanji Brown understands that she doesn't understand. She knows she's not a biologist. So hopefully she will recuse herself on all cases involving biology, because all I'm talking about is high school level biology. This isn't even high-tech stuff I'm talking about.
This is like 6-year-old telling your kid about the birds and the bees level biology, let's be honest. And I mean, it's no different than the other stuff we were talking about earlier about how these words have meaning, and if you can control the language, you can then influence everything downstream from that, which is, well, everything in your society. It's potentially dangerous because there are clear biological differences, and when these terms become so eroded that a man or a woman can walk into a clinic and say and be like, oh, I think I have colon cancer, or something that's typically more male-centric, or sorry, let's do it the other way around. Ovarian cancer. A man walks in, a transgender man, who says, I want to get tested for ovarian cancer. Well, then you're taking space away from somebody who might actually need it, or in being treated in an emergency triage situation, or being treated for certain diseases that can affect different ethnicities and different genders differently. You're taking away potentially life-saving time from another individual who is definitively of that specified group that would be more at risk from something like that. And it aggravates me.
It's a real opportunity cost. You're absolutely right.
Yeah. I mean, it must completely suck for people who have a brain that's wired for the sex that doesn't correspond to their body. People who have gender dysphoria, that's not something I would necessarily wish on anybody. That sounds like it would not be particularly fun, and we see a lot of people struggle with this. It's difficult. So I'm not trying to throw stones at anybody who's doing the best to just live their life the way they want to live it. But to go to the point where it's like, unless we create some sort of shared delusion that I have to go along with, where we pretend that biology doesn't matter. Of course biology matters. Of course, biology matters. Of course, there's a gender binary. I can show you why there's a gender binary because we wouldn't exist as a species without it. You literally can't sexually reproduce as a species without a gender binary. Not the way humans do. It's just
exactly.
Or that, what is it, 98% of all organisms on Earth do. Like, I mean, it's crazy.
Yeah. Anyway, I've beaten that horse pretty badly. It's well tenderized at this point. Okay. So, here's some good news. Internet Explorer is done.
Finally, after 20
It's been
So I can finally uninstall it?
It's been a long run, little e-ball, but finally Internet Explorer is done. And if you haven't uninstalled it already, why not? I mean, I have a reason
I don't
for
think
work
you can
stuff
from Windows.
You can totally uninstall it.
You probably have compatibility things though, right, Harry?
I run into problems where really old systems have management interfaces that don't work with newer versions of browsers.
That's
like
what,
when
that's
you're
what I'm
going
talking
in.
about.
Yeah, that's. But enough about my problems. But it's been a while. I mean, Internet Explorer is a thing that Microsoft decided sort of me too, because originally there was this thing called Mosaic, which got turned into Netscape Navigator, and Netscape Navigator was a pretty good product. But
some of us were using Mosaic when it was Mosaic before Netscape.
Yeah, I had to compile it. I had to compile it from source, Skep.
God,
and sorry, Harry, I was confusing it with Microsoft Edge.
Hey, your chops are bigger than mine. I'll
only on this one thing. Only on this one thing. But I was like a real early adopter on the internet stuff. So, World Wide Web. Actually, I remember early on in this thing, I was at an Italian restaurant in Mountain View. This was like right after Netscape was started. And I was sitting there and I look over at the table next to me and I see Mark Andreessen. And people have no idea how exciting the Valley was during the first internet boom. It was like a magical time. I imagine it was almost as much fun as when the birth control pill first came out. Free love, man. But no, the Internet Explorer has been a terrible product for a very long time, and it couldn't have died fast enough.
It almost rose to mediocrity on a couple of occasions, but then it found a way to dive back down into just plain.
Well, they were always doing the thing Microsoft does, which is embrace and extend. So they would supposedly follow the standards, which were fairly primitive at the time for the internet. But then they would just sort of mess with them just because Microsoft likes to lift its leg on stuff and just sort of to expand its turf a little bit.
That's what they did.
Internet Explorer has always just been kind of a terrible, terrible browser. And every now and then you'll find a website that the only thing they ever tested it on was Internet Explorer. And you have to use it just to get to it.
Ask the Corba people.
Common object broker, yeah.
Sorry, I was thinking of Microsoft Edge, which is the new integrated default web browser in Windows that you can't delete.
You can still get rid of it, I believe.
You sure can. You sure can.
Yeah, there was a lawsuit over this. They got their pee-pee whacked and everything.
Really?
Yeah.
Where have I been? Probably too busy warhamstering.
Already took care of that detail.
Well, anyway, have you got any experience with Internet Explorer, Sora, or did you rage quit a long time ago and forgot about it? Oh, she's muted. She's dealing with dogs and stuff. Well, anyway, goodbye, Internet Explorer. And I'd like to say it was fun, but it wasn't. Go away now. Okay. So the Webb telescope got hit by a micrometeorite. There's a whole article about it. I guess a lot of people got very worried about this. This is hardly unexpected. Space is just full of crap. And it caused a little damage to one mirror. But the long story short is we can correct for this. It's not the end of the Webb telescope.
Software is a beautiful thing.
Software is a beautiful thing. And it's amazing what you can do with synthetic images.
Amen.
Yeah, it's a good thing. So the Webb telescope is going to be producing some pretty amazing stuff soon. So if you heard tale that the Webb telescope was damaged by a meteorite, don't lose any sleep over it. It's going to be
It actually got hit by about 5 of them, but only one of them was of a size that was real significant.
Yeah.
So reading past the headline, the damage is like minimal, within expected margins.
Yeah.
Okay.
Hey, so do you remember candy cigarettes, Skep, or
Yes,
anybody?
I do.
You remember
sure
candy
do.
cigarettes? Who here
Little
remembers?
puff
Popeye.
The little puff of powder that came out that simulated smoke for one whole puff.
And those are problematic, aren't they? Because they teach kids that smoking is okay or some such nonsense.
Yeah.
Well, if candy cigarettes are problematic, what do you think of these?
That cannot be real.
I've come back to camel balls.
That's not real.
Yes, it is. And if
That's
you look
not
underneath
real.
it, you will see unicorn balls.
No.
No, there is a company that sells these delightful candies. It is
in the
real
Middle
because here you go, Skep. Camel balls, Amazon.
Elwin?
Are you kidding?
Yeah,
But
and they
they're-
also
they're
have
sour.
taro
Are they
balls.
sour?
Yeah,
They're
they're
extra sour.
Well, the unicorn balls are actually sour. So I found a review of the unicorn balls. I guess what this candy is trying to tell me is not only are unicorn testicles edible, but they have the texture and flavor of hard candy. Of all these gimmick candies, they are supposed to represent either testicles or bodily functions. This is the hardest to compare to reality. My first reaction when I get a candy or dessert is it's supposed to represent something that I shouldn't be eating is compared to the reality. So he goes through and talks about this thing and says that they're supposed to be fizzy, but they don't fizz. So that's lame. But mostly they're sour on the outside and sweet on the inside. The unicorn balls.
Yeah. That's
I just like, this just seems like a weird marketing thing. I find it vaguely disturbing.
I don't like. I think that this is part of the sexualization of culture. Yeah, this is children are going to see this. They're going. I want some camel balls. Haha. They're named after the camel's testicles. We're eating balls, but that's early coarsening of children that I think is unnecessary.
I agree. I think it's not a great idea.
You can buy moose droppings here.
Mm-hmm. But there's nothing sexual about a moose dropping, is there?
Yeah.
Or I guess not. Is there some Canadian winter thing I'm unaware of?
Bull balls and camel balls.
Well, those are mountain oysters.
There was the old Tom Paxton song, which was a funny song called Moose Turd Pie.
Well, there's that. And then one last thing just before we leave. What do you think of this outfit, Sora? Do you see anything there that looks a little odd?
Wait, what?
What do you think, Functional? Do you see anything there that looks a little odd?
Oh!
That's very unfortunate.
Yes, Australian
I just don't usually see it in that.
Australian newsreader is mocked on social media after viewers spot her unfortunately shaped neckline. Yeah, her
the zipper
top
is shiny.
looks like a dick.
It looks like a dick peeing. Actually, yeah,
or dripping or something.
Or dripping.
There's something going on with it.
Yes,
there's
output.
You should always screen test your outfits before going live.
Yes,
ladies.
Why did nobody on the team be like, Samantha?
Because she's probably a
look in the
bitch,
mirror.
and they thought this is hilarious and serves her right.
Probably right.
Sora's right. I agree.
Oh,
somebody else.
There's
the
somebody else
so-called
wearing a
penis
similar
jacket
outfit.
is a thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
Really?
These other ones don't really look
keeps
like
happening.
penises, but
Oh no, this was done on purpose.
The zipper's really,
yeah.
really good.
You
can totally
it'd be
see
fun
her
to
nip.
make an alteration with it to have a big mushroom neck.
Add a little frill.
Anatomically correct, more correct.
Reminds me of that scene from Austin Powers where it's like, oh my god, would you look at that? Wang! Pay attention!
Yeah, well, Elwood gets it. Why? Why?
Yeah, I'm with you.
Because Australia. This was apparently designed and worn by a lot of newscasters. So someone did this on purpose, and they had a lot of fun.
I mean, even if she was a bitch as an intern, I'd be like, Samantha, you got a dick around your neck. Come on.
Yeah. Anyway, that is pretty much it for tonight's show. Any last thoughts from anybody before we go?
Thanks for having me on, Harry. It's always fun to hang with all you guys and all you guys in chat too.
This was actually, I think, a pretty fun one. I'm still amazed at what terrible, nightmare-inducing animals Sora can find cute. But we'll eventually figure this out as we keep
I didn't call it cute. I called it elegant and fascinating.
And
I called it nightmare fuel, calamari nightmare fuel. Thanks, everybody. Zoo's closed. Good night.
Good night.
Good night, everyone.
Night.